this car behind me. It's quite an unusual thing for me to do, actually sell a car. This is the Superformance S1, which has been on Bring a Trailer for the last week, and today is the final day. So why am I selling this car? Well, apart from the fact that it's not blue, all the other cars here are blue, with the exception of the Triumph. I recently retired from track use the Westfield, which is a very similar car, and I built this one. So this one is not going to be sold anytime soon, and they're two very similar cars. So there's really no place to have two Lotus 7 type cars. And I just got this. I picked this up on Cars and Bids, and I've been looking for a blue first generation Audi TT Quattro for quite a while, and it just happened to come up. I'd already made the decision to sell the Superformance before I got the Audi. The timing was just a little off in the fact that that auction closed before this one opened. It's a great little car, and I'll be sorry to see it go, but it's time for somebody else to look after it. So I've bought cars on Bring a Trailer and Cars and Bids before, but I've never sold one. So I thought it worthwhile to give some insights into the process. First of all, if you're expecting to sell your car quickly, you can forget that. It takes quite a while to get through the pipeline. I believe I did the first submission on May the 24th, and the listing finally went live on July the 5th. So that's 6 weeks lead time before the auction actually goes live. So what the process was, you fill in a submission where you provide all the details for the car, you can submit pictures and so on and so forth. And I think it's best to be as complete as possible at this stage, even though you're not sure whether or not the car is going to get accepted, because they do not accept every car. There's about at least 100 that go live every day, and but I have no idea how many get rejected. So anyway, 2 days later, on the 26th, I got an email saying it was accepted, and if I wanted to go ahead, you had to pay the listing fee, which is $99 for the standard listing fee. And they send you an email where they offer you all kinds of additional services if you want, like detailing, professional photography and video service, all that kind of stuff. They send you multiple emails at this point. So there's advice on how to do your listing, and they outline what the steps are, which is basically the following. First of all, they assign a specialist to you, and that person will help guide you through the process. They will write the listing that is then sent to you for your approval, or if you want to make any changes, then they schedule the listing, and then it goes live. One thing that I found was, even though I asked, they didn't actually tell me it was going live. It just suddenly appeared one morning. We did have some back and forth about when it could be scheduled, because I didn't want to run the risk of it going live on July the 4th, because I figured I'd lose that day. So they were aware of that, but I'm not sure they took that into account. It finally went live on July the 5th, which means today, July the 12th, is the final day for the auction. And we're about 2 hours out at the moment. This is the page for the auction, and this is the lead photo you can see here. Here you see the current bid, $22,000, ending in just over 2 hours, and there have been 37 comments. So over the next few days, I got a series of emails from them, and the first one was a bit weird, because it was explaining the differentiators for listing on Bring a Trailer, which one I already knew, and two was kind of weird, seeing as I already paid the fee, so why would I need to know what the differentiating factors were? But basically it was talking about the email updates that you get, the ability for the community to comment, and the anti-sniping. So the anti-sniping is that the auction clock resets to 2 minutes if there is a bid within the last 2 minutes, so it stops sniping. I then got another email a day or so later about comments telling me to respond quickly, to be transparent, and to be positive, and it's all kind of obvious stuff, but I just kind of got the impression they were filling the time before somebody actually got around to doing my listing. Now, I got another email in early June on the 5th asking for some additional photos because they wanted better pictures of the interior. They wanted to see the seating surfaces and a more general overview of the interior. Plus, I hadn't got a wide shot of the right side of the car. I think you need to have the right balance for the number of pictures. I see some auctions and there are 300 pictures and there are just kind of multiple pictures of the same thing. Then again, you see other auctions with not enough. So you need to strike the right balance. I think somewhere between 70 and 80 pictures is about right. It just so happened that I managed to miss taking one picture of the right side of the car. So that happened on the 5th. So obviously somebody was looking at it on the June the 9th. So that's another 4 days later. I got an email saying a specialist will be assigned shortly. And then on June the 12th, bugger it, I saw that another S1 had been listed. And that's not good news because that's whoever buys that car is not going to be in the market for buying my car. But at least it generates a little bit of interest and you can see who's bidding on it. And one of the things I've seen people do is actually tag those people who bid on the previous listing on their listing. I didn't do that. I don't think that's the right thing to do. So anyway, I was a little disappointed with that. Then on the 23rd, I got an email from the specialist introducing himself. So that's a month after I did my initial submission. He asked a couple of questions, like he said, did I have any documentary proof that this was number 53 of 56? Actually, I didn't. I was expecting to find a chassis plate and there wasn't one. So without any kind of proof to back up various things, they won't put them in the listing. Like they wouldn't put that it was number 53, even though that was what I'd been told by the previous owner. They actually wouldn't say that the color was titanium. They just said it was generic silver, even though the color is the factory titanium color. But they just left that up to me to say that in the comments, and they also asked for photos of any spare parts that were included. My reply to them was titanium is the color, blah blah blah, and they basically disagreed. But I did ask them to not use the word reportedly. If you look at Bring a Trailer listings, the word reportedly is used at least half a dozen times every listing. And I just think that puts the seller in a bad light. It kind of questions whether what they're saying is true, i.e. an oil service was reportedly done by the seller. So I asked them not to do that, and they replied and said, well, we have to be objective and we can't make factual statements if we don't know the thing's true. But finally, they did not use the word reportedly in my listing. I also asked them what the timing would be. They said they couldn't commit on that, but they said it would probably be about a week. And then on 6/28, I got the first draft. I gave them a bunch of comments for things that I didn't like or wanted changing. And so you're free to make as many suggestions for change as you want, and typically they don't make a lot of changing to their listings. Their listings are pretty generic. Like a lot of the information that was presented for the previous S1 was the same in my listing. And they say basically they don't want to put a lot of detail in. For example, I wanted them to put more about the adjustability of the pedal assembly because that's quite unique to this car. But their point was, well, if it's the same on all of them, it doesn't differentiate it from others. So no, we're not going to put it in. Anyway, we had some back and forth on what should be in the listing, and I explained to them my reticence about the listing going live on holiday on July the 4th. And they basically said, well, it's up to you. In the past, we haven't had a problem with it going live on holiday because people have more time to look at the listings. So I approved it on, when did I approve? I approved the listing on July the 2nd, and I asked them specifically to let me know when it would be going live, just in case there was any kind of conflict. I didn't hear from them, and then lo and behold, I got an email saying that my listing was live on July the 5th. So at least they waited till after the holiday, but it would have been nice to get some kind of warning from them that it was going live. So the listing went live on July the 5th at end of the morning. It's about 11:15, 11:20, and then the listing stays live for 7 days. So it is going to end today, July the 12th, my birthday. The following day to the listing going live, I got an email with an auction snapshot which shows how many people are watching it, how many views it got. It's nice to see, and you get that as a daily update. You get a daily update on how the auction's performing, where the bid's at, how many people are watching, how many people have seen it. So that's good. I got emails telling me every time somebody bid, every time somebody tagged me, and if somebody wanted to contact me to ask me a direct question. Most of the questions are asked publicly in the comments, and that's one of the great things about Bring a Trailer. But if somebody wants to ask a very specific private question, there's a button that they can click on and ask you, and you just get connected by email. So you can chat with people there, and I had a couple of people who were interested who reached out to me who wanted some specific items. One thing I did notice, there's kind of a summary section on the listing, the BAT Essentials, and I noticed there was an error in that a few days after the auction went live, and I reached out to the specialist who's been helping me, and he just made the change behind the scenes and apologized, said he hadn't seen it. I hadn't seen it either, so it wasn't a big deal. So it's worthwhile checking the listing once it's gone live to make sure it's accurate and there aren't any misstatements, because typically you'll miss stuff beforehand. And you can post additional videos as you go along. In response to some questions about how big the car actually was and how big a driver it would accommodate, I actually did a video with my son, and I felt that was the best way to engage the audience, was to be on camera, answer specifically any questions, and a video says so much more than the photos. Now, in terms of the videos that I had in my submission, I had done videos on the car for our YouTube channel, so I included those. So they were a little more detailed than you typically see. So there was one comparing the car to my Westfield, which is another 7 Type car. And then I had also done another video for a charity day where I was demonstrating an autocross. So that really showed the capabilities of the car. So I think that really helped. And then they typically ask you to do a cold start video to show that the car starts and it doesn't blow a lot of smoke out when you do a cold start and a walk around. So I combined those. So I did a cold start video. I actually let the car warm up to show that it had good oil pressure. And then I did a walk around, and I specifically highlighted all the flaws on the car. So there was some scuffing on the bodywork, and I showed that. And I talked about that. There's a big crack in the windshield, and I explained why that hadn't been repaired, because I did actually have a replacement windshield. But the key thing is to be engaged with the people asking questions, and to answer questions quickly, but answer them truthfully. I've had issues with pretty much... that's not true. I've bought 4 cars at auction, 2 on Bring a Trailer and 2 with Cars and Bids. On Bring a Trailer, both times, the sellers weren't upfront about things, and I found out things once I'd got the car. And that's something that's important to understand, that Bring a Trailer really will not help you out post-sale. Their job is to act as an intermediary and put the buyer and the seller together. And once the sale is complete, they're hands off. And particularly with the second car, that it was something quite expensive to have fixed, and would have changed my bids had I known. And they said, well, sorry, it's not our problem. You need to reach out to the seller. We won't get involved. And it was basically hand washing. But they did offer to reimburse the buyer's premium, so that I did get that money back from them, and that was pretty much enough to cover the repairs that needed doing on the car. So you have to be aware. You have to really trust the seller, and just be aware that Bring a Trailer, or indeed Cars and Bids, are not really wanting to get involved post-sale. So what happens post-sale is the buyer and the seller are put together, and it's up to them to sort out method of payment, transfer of title, and have the car picked up. So let's go back to the auction and see how it's going. Normally the last hour is when you get the most serious bids. What really surprised me on this car was I got very strong bids very early on the first day. It got fairly close to my reserve, and I did set a reserve on this car, which has been passed. So that means the car is going to sell today. Now, typically what happens, you'll see a bunch of frivolous bids early on, and they're often related to a number that is relevant to the car. So often you'll see, for example, E39 BMWs, you maybe get 1,039, or somebody will bid the date of manufacture of the car, or for a Porsche 356, it'll be bids ending in 356. Often you'll see very low bids early on, and quite honestly, I don't understand why somebody would bid early on for one of these auctions. Because all the action happens towards the end. And so what happens is you get these typically low bids early on, and then bidding goes quiet until the last day. In this case, I've been getting bids here and there throughout the auction leading up to it, which is really nice. I wasn't really expecting that at all. And also the comments will tend to go quiet. You tend to get a lot of comments and questions early on, and then mid-week it'll go completely quiet. And there were a couple of days where I had no comments, no bids whatsoever at all. Today there've been a lot of people commenting on the car itself, not really asking questions, but commenting on how nice the car is, how good the videos were, and so on and so forth. So those are people who are watching and aren't serious bidders. I think there are 3 serious bidders. You can actually click on each person's name and you can see how many cars they've bid on before and how they've bid. And a number of the bidders they may have bid on multiple cars, but it's just been one bid where they're just hoping to get a cheap car. But I have seen that there's one bidder in particular who has bid on multiple Lotus 7 type cars, whether the Lotus 7s, Westfields, or Superformance cars. So I'm hoping that there are at least 2 people who are serious, and that the bids will go up towards the end. It typically all happens in the last couple of minutes. So we'll be back. Well, this is where it starts to get interesting. There have been a couple of very positive comments come out, and a new bid come in and upped the price by $1,000. So this guy is serious. And that is the number that I paid for this car 5 years ago. So I am very happy. I've had a lot of fun with this car for 5 years, and basically got my money back. It's good news, so we will continue to see. There's 4 minutes left to run. So as we get into the last 2 minutes, you see there's a countdown bar. which starts yellow here, and then when you get down to 1 minute it goes red, and if there are any bids in the period when that bar is up there, the timer will reset to 2 minutes. But I have a feeling there aren't going to be any more bids, because that was quite an aggressive bid put in by Clockwork Apple. Upped it by 1,000 at this point, and I think the minimum increment was 250. So we will see. A minute and a half left. So there you can see it's just turned red. And there we have another bidder coming in, and you can see that the clock reset and he has done the minimum increase. So my guess is if Clockwork Apple really wants it, he'll go to 24,000. Otherwise you will see multiple $250 increases. This is quite exciting. So there's another $250 bid by Clockwork Apple, so this is going to go on for a little bit. So this is a few minutes later and there's two guys fighting over me. It's so nice to be wanted. And we are now up to $27,000 with still a minute 30 because it keeps resetting. Watch this space. 28,000. Holy cow. Guess who's buying dinner tonight? Well, there we have it. The car sold for $31,000. There was a knockout bid of an increment of $2,000, and that's what did it. So now I will be provided with the winning bidder's information, and I'll be in touch for him, hopefully, to wire me a nice chunk of change. Well, it's now 12, nearly 3 weeks later, and finally somebody is here to pick up this car. They were supposed to come a little over a week ago and never turned up, and then they were supposed to come on Friday, didn't hear anything, supposed to come on Saturday, didn't hear anything. Finally I got a text on Sunday afternoon yesterday saying could they come and pick up the car, to which the answer was no. So now they're here and the car will be moving on to its new home. So let's get it out and hopefully get it on this trailer. It's going, it's not coming. Car is loaded, safe and sound. It's a little tiny in this transporter.